Hey guys, we're back with more AI storytelling with Steven Seagal. We've modified our GPT to SeagalBot 5000. It will be more of a narrator. We'll try to speak like a story, and we'll just give it plot points. We'll guide it. We'll basically give it anecdotes to reference the story. So we can kind of work as the puppet master, and it will uh, basically tell the story with the modifications that we give it. But let's go ahead and just do a new short story and we'll see how it works out. Now, uh, it doesn't do too well. Our text to voice feature does not do too well with real-time playback when the story is being written out. So when the stories are written, the responses are written, we will then activate the feature so we can listen to it talk to us. Uh, but for now, let's go ahead and begin. Let's give it a starting story point. Seagal is being interrogated by military officials for something he potentially did wrong. All right, let's see what it does. Now it's going to spell this out. Who's doing that as it kind of works its way through. We'll let it print it out here, just so you guys can probably start reading it if you want, but I do ultimately want to let it speak to us once it is complete. It's definitely working like a book, which is good. That's what I intended it to. All the It's got dialogue, it's got actions, that's perfect. And it does have more humor. I'm hoping it does, but I specifically asked it and tested it several times. It does work like a parody of Steven Seagal films. That's the primary purpose of this whole series. It's a parody. So let's go ahead and hear what it has to say.
The room was dimly lit, the only source of light a single, flickering bulb overhead. I, Steven Seagal, sat casually in a metal chair, hands folded, my trademark sunglasses still on despite the darkness. Across from me, a group of stern-looking military officials glared, their faces a mix of confusion and annoyance. "So, Seagal," barked the lead interrogator, a man with a jaw so square you could use it as a ruler, "we have reason to believe you're responsible for the incident at the missile base." I leaned back, my leather jacket creaking theatrically. "Incident? You mean the one where the missiles accidentally launched themselves, flew 3 circles around the moon, and returned to their silos, painting, Seagal was here, in the sky?" The officials exchanged incredulous glances. "Exactly that incident," the lead interrogator snapped. I smirked, a barely audible whisper escaping my lips. "You can't prove anything." The interrogator slammed his fist on the table. "Your fingerprints were on the control panel." I stood up, stretching to my full, imposing height. "Ah, but were they my fingerprints, or my body doubles? Did you check for continuity errors?" There was a pause, the officials clearly baffled. I seized the moment, executing a slow-motion spin, my coat billowing dramatically. In a flash, I drew 2 swords from seemingly nowhere, the blades gleaming even in the dim light. Or maybe, I mumbled, the words almost lost in my whisper, "the missiles knew better than to mess with Steven Seagal." The officials stared, speechless, as I struck a pose, swords crossed. Then, with a wink and a smirk, I vanished into a puff of smoke, leaving behind only a faint echo of my mumble, "Case closed." The military officials were left in stunned silence, the room now filled only with the sound of their own bewildered mutterings and the distant, echoing laughter of Steven Seagal.
Right. Definitely, definitely an interesting, bizarre start. Have the military officials talk about how amazing Seagal is while a 20-something female runs into the room asking where Seagal went, as she is interested in him, even though he is older than her father. All right. That was pretty good. While it works that out, the whole missiles around the moon caught me off guard. And not, it's really tapping into its very childish humor, parody style humor. Oh my gosh, that was really good. Quirky. That's Definitely what I intended for this. So let's see what Seagal about 5,000 has to write for the next chapter or next page at this point. So throwing a young love interest into this flick for Seagal to possibly rescue, or she's a traitor or a spy, etc. Let's see what happens.
As the smoke cleared and the bewildered military officials began to regain their composure, they couldn't help but express their amazement. "Did you see that?" one of the younger officials exclaimed, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Seagal just vanished. And those sword moves, it's like he defies the laws of physics." Another official, his medals clinking as he nodded vigorously, added, "He's a legend." The way he mumbled those threats, it was so intimidating and yet so hard to understand. Just then, the door burst open, and a young woman in her 20s, her eyes sparkling with excitement, rushed into the room. "Where did he go? Where's Steven Seagal?" she asked breathlessly, looking around frantically. The officials, now completely thrown off their game, exchanged puzzled glances. The lead interrogator, still trying to process the recent events, replied, He just disappeared." The young woman's face fell into a frown of disappointment. "Oh no, I've been following his adventures for years. He's like a real-life action hero, and so mysterious. And despite being older than my father, there's just something about him." One of the officials, trying to be helpful, offered, "Well, he left in a cloud of smoke, literally." It was quite dramatic. Her eyes lit up again. "That's just like him. So unpredictable and cool." She sighed dreamily, adding, "I just hope I get another chance to meet him." As the young woman left the room, still looking hopeful, the military officials sat in stunned silence, their interrogation room having turned into a stage for the legend that was Steven Seagal, a man who defied age, logic, and the very laws of narrative continuity, leaving everyone, from hardened military personnel to young admirers, in sheer awe of his enigmatic presence.
Okay, good. That was perfect. That was good. Talking about Steven Seagal, how amazing he is, just like his movies. So I have an idea for the next part. Have Seagal leave the top secret government building that sticks out like a sore thumb with neon lighting. He enters his Hummer, which is clearly on a fake set with a moving background, and drives very patiently when suddenly he is chased by ninjas on motorcycles. All right. Have to go leave. I didn't catch all my words correctly. Have to go leave the top secret. Okay. Well, all right. It does make out what I said. And I noticed it does switch between first and third person at times. Mainly when he's in the room. Well, let's see. Yeah, he does talk in first person, but then when he's not in the room or in the general area, which is hard for Seagal to do because he's so big, like me, it will switch to third person. So wow, it's really writing up a story for this part because ninjas and government buildings with neon lighting. Let's see. All right, I'm really interested in this part here of the ninjas.
As I, Steven Seagal, exited the top-secret government building, which was about as inconspicuous as a fireworks show, thanks to its neon lights flashing in all the colors of the rainbow, I strode with my trademark cool demeanor. My black leather jacket caught the neon glows, making me look like a walking, brooding disco. I approached my Hummer, which was parked on what was obviously a fake set. The background was a painted cityscape, and the road was just a large conveyor belt. I climbed in, starting the engine with a dramatic roar that was clearly added in post-production. Driving at a comically slow pace, I made sure to look serious, my eyes hidden behind my sunglasses even though it was night. The background scrolled past, giving the illusion of movement, though the trees and buildings repeated every few seconds due to budget constraints. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a gang of ninjas on motorcycles appeared, their bikes roaring as they caught up to my Hummer. The ninjas were decked out in all black, their swords glinting under the studio lights. The camera zoomed in on my face, showing a hint of a smirk. With the calmness of a man who's seen it all, I reached under my seat and pulled out two oversized, gleaming pistols. Leaning out of the window, I started firing at the ninjas, the shots clearly missing by a mile, but the ninjas exploding in a burst of special effects anyway. As I continued to drive, the ninjas kept coming, performing over-the-top acrobatics on their bikes. But no matter how many there were, they were no match for my absurdly good shooting and my ability to steer without ever looking at the road. In the midst of the chaos, I mumbled something about respecting the environment, a line that made no sense in the context but sounded deep. The ninjas, overwhelmed by my whispering and my environmental concern, began to retreat. Finally, with the last of the ninjas disappearing into the poorly painted horizon, I parked my Hummer right where I started, the background coming to a sudden stop. I stepped out, adjusted my jacket, and looked directly at the camera with a grin, saying, "Just another day in the life of Steven Seagal." The scene faded to black, leaving the audience wondering how I managed to drive anywhere at all on a stationary set, and more importantly, how I kept my sunglasses on the entire time.
That was great. Just loved it. The part where he's shooting it around like miles away, missing like a stormtrooper, and still manages to cause spontaneous explosions, and then just that was great. Okay, so let's throw in to finish close this. Let's throw in probably a couple of responses. Let's put in the lady from earlier who was captured by one of, well, he stopped. So let's say he stopped outside his house and the lady was captured, and yeah. So let's see. How can I word that in? Seagal arrives to his dojo and he enters to find the same gang of ninjas on motorcycles inside with the lady from earlier tied up to a chair held hostage. What does Seagal do? All right, so he's at his dojo. As I store this. So we'll go ahead and pause it so you guys can see the whole thing. Okay, it's done. Let's see how, if we need to close, let's see how it ends. Turn on the audio and play.
As I, Steven Seagal, arrived at my dojo, I noticed something was off. The door was ajar, and there was an ominous silence. Pushing the door open with my signature slow yet deliberate push, I stepped inside, my black leather jacket almost blending into the shadows. To my surprise, the interior of the dojo had been transformed into a scene straight out of a low-budget action movie. The same gang of ninjas from earlier, somehow having recovered from their explosive defeats, were inside. They had their motorcycles parked haphazardly around the dojo, an absurd sight, considering the dojo's traditional Japanese decor. In the center of the room, the young woman from the government building was tied to a chair, looking distressed yet somehow also impressed by the dramatic turn of events. The ninjas turned to face me, their swords drawn. I took a moment to assess the situation, then mumbled, "Didn't I blow you guys up earlier?" Ignoring the continuity error, I calmly walked towards the young woman. The ninjas revved their motorcycle engines, creating a deafening roar inside the dojo. But in classic Seagal fashion, I remained unfazed, my expression as stoic as a statue. Suddenly, I stopped, standing perfectly still. Then, with the speed of a lethargic sloth, I pulled out a pair of swords from behind my back, swords no one had seen me carry in. The ninjas charged, but in a series of quick cuts and obviously choreographed moves, each swing of my sword sent a ninja flying, complete with over-the-top sound effects. As the last ninja fell, I approached the young woman. She looked at me with a mix of fear and admiration. "How did you do that?" she asked, her voice filled with awe. I untied her, whispering in a voice so low it was almost inaudible, "I'm Steven Seagal. That's what I do." I escorted her out of the dojo, stepping over the groaning ninjas. As we exited, I gave one last look at the camera, a smirk playing on my lips, and said, "Remember, always recycle." The camera zoomed in on my sunglasses, reflecting the bizarre scene behind me, before cutting to black, leaving the audience to ponder the profoundness of my final words and the inexplicable presence of motorcycles in a dojo.
Okay, that's a good point to end. Very short video. I do apologize, but I got to get to work. This that worked out perfectly. It was what, 3, 4 responses mostly. Yeah, four responses. Two, three, four. Yeah, yeah, that's a short story. That's a short film, like a script or a story form of a short film. But yeah, that was perfect. Seagal bought 5,000, really laid it out, and it was actually had some really funny parts. The Japanese door reference was great. I yeah, that was great. So, yeah, that's it for really. That's really it, guys. Thanks for watching this 8:30 RPG video. I'm like signing off. I'll see you guys next time.